Hey there! Today's video, I wanted to go over some basic tips and some general settings improvements for new players, so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. But before that, let's go over what this video will be about. I will be talking more in depth about changing your settings to match you, discovering your preferred playstyle, the basics of the TF2 economy, and some other really beneficial resources that you can use. There's timestamps in the video if that's something that you want, if you're looking for something in particular. But enough of that, let's just get into it. Now, clearly I'm not the best TF2 player. But I do have some tips that I think can pretty much help anyone improve. Before we get into the tips, I think it's necessary that we dive into your settings because the ones set by default are trash and generally just a hassle to deal with. First, go to the main menu of TF2. I know mine looks a little bit different from yours because I have something called a custom HUD. The one that I use is Peach HUD if you want to go ahead and download it, link in the description. But anyways, go to the main menu and then go to your advanced options, which you can see at the bottom of your screen as a little cog wheel icon. When you're there, quickly make sure that auto reload is checked on. Then go down to the next option and enable fast weapon switching. Now, this might feel a little weird if you're used to scrolling and then clicking to switch weapons, but TF2 is a very fast-paced game, so having to physically move more than what is necessary can often cost you. And it does have the added benefit of making gameplay feel a lot more smooth and less choppy, as you're no longer wasting 10 minutes to switch to your secondary. After you've done this, go ahead and scroll down some until you see these three options. Basically, what these options do is show how much damage you did to a player, letting you know as you're fighting how much damage you're going to need to do to finish off the different classes. And while you're still here in the settings, I would also recommend taking the time to browse these options and getting the game to your own personal preference. Now after you did that, go to the basic options menu, then go to the bottom of that window, click on the advanced tab, then make sure that both of these buttons are enabled. To briefly go over what the second option does, the developer console is basically the window where you're going to type in different commands to help you fully customize how you see and play TF2. And while you are in the options menu, go ahead and go over to the next section underneath the mouse and go ahead and disable mouse acceleration. What this does is just make your aim far more consistent, as the distance your crosshair moves is no longer dependent on how fast you move your mouse. Going back to the developer console, after you activated it in the options, press the tilde key in the upper left hand corner of your keyboard to open it, then use the same key to close it. Next, when you go into the console, type in FOV_desired 90 to be able to see the maximum of what you can. For some reason, by default, TF2 has your FOV set to 70, which is far too low, as you're essentially giving yourself tunnel vision. And after you use that command, go ahead and use viewModel_FOV90 to change the position of your weapon in your HUD. Note that you can change these values to different numbers, but I'm just giving you these numbers as a baseline, as they're the settings that most people are comfortable with. There are also other FOV settings that I will not be going over in this video, but I did just upload a video showcasing a bunch of different options you have when it comes to your FOV. So go ahead and click that icon in the upper right hand corner to go to that video. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe. It means a lot. Now that we went over your settings, let's now go over some general tips to help you improve. The first tip that I have, and possibly the most important piece of advice in this entire video, is always check your surroundings. TF2 is a really hectic game, with no other shooter really being able to capture the chaos of an average match. So the best way to not have a soldier dive bomb you with a shovel is to be able to see him before he can even try anything. So instead of staring straight ahead, occasionally look around, and especially look up, because the mobility options in this game are second to none, and you are just not going to be able to know when an engineer is going to sentry jump from across the map to crit you. Essentially, what I'm saying is, unless you have someone right in front of you, always keep your head moving. I promise you, if you're having issues countering a spy, for example, sometimes just looking around is enough to keep them from even trying anything. The next tip that I have is to move sporadically. You might have noticed already in my gameplay that I'm constantly moving around unpredictably, and that's on purpose. This kind of goes along with the last tip, but this is more to keep you from being outplayed instead of being snuck up on. When I play TF2, even I don't know where I'm headed to next, and that's what keeps me from being an easy target and gives me much more of a fighting chance even against objectively better players. And as a new player, you're typically easy pickings, so getting your movement down is almost essential. The best example of TF2's movement is probably Soldier. I know, on the surface he doesn't seem like much, just a patriotic schizophrenia patient out of his meds, but in reality he has some of the most unique and satisfying movement mechanics I have found in any video game. If you are having issues figuring out rocket jumping, there are countless guides and videos explaining it far better than I really ever could, and all that I can say is that instead of learning how to rocket jump in a real match, I would say go to a rocket jumping dedicated server such as Jump Academy, which you can easily find just by looking it up in the community server menu. The next bit of advice that I have is one just to get away from all the bots that have been ruining your matches. If you're really new to the game, you might not know the extent of things, so I'll just fill you in really quickly. TF2 is currently being faced by thousands of bots aimbotting and generally ruining matches, making casual mode almost impossible to use. But luckily, casual mode isn't the only way to play TF2. There are also community servers that you can have a pretty normal experience on, and some not so much. Sadly, because of the crisis with bots and cheaters in general, the best way to play TF2 at the moment is through the community. Personally, I've been playing community servers almost exclusively for the better part of 2 years, and I don't miss playing on official servers at all. I know the community server browser can be pretty daunting to look at with all the absurd titles and gimmicky plugins and game modes and just the overall ancient design in general, so if you are having trouble finding a server you want to play on, websites such as teamwork.tf are there making finding servers easy and simple. I would also like to take this time to mention a bit about the economy in TF2. Now, if you're playing TF2 completely free to play, then you can always spend $5 on the Manco store to upgrade to a premium account, which unlocks a lot of really cool things, such as trading. But after that initial $5, the best thing you can do is to not buy anything from the Manco store, especially hats. You can get them much cheaper through the community trading. I would say really only buy Manco supply keys, as they do hold their value and can be traded for essentially anything. The economy in TF2 is a complicated creature, with a lot of scams and general inflation making actual trading for profit really slow and risky. Now of course you can still do the scrap to unusual thing, but in the current market, unless you want to spend months trading for a few dollars profit, I would say don't bother. Now, I hate to say that because some of my fondest memories in TF2 are getting insane deals on nice items, but I'm afraid to say that the economy, at least at the moment, is not worth buying into. Just to clarify, all that I'm advocating new players to do is to spend that $5 to unlock all the benefits of a premium account, but I do not recommend trading as it's not worth it in my experience. And finally, the last piece of advice that I have for this video is play different classes. That's it. I know that sounds really obvious when it's said aloud, but I feel that it needs to be said aloud because I've gone into too many matches with my team that has too many of a certain class, and rarely does having 4 spies on my team lead us to victory. Playing different classes allows you to see TF2 from different perspectives. For example, learning how to play sniper really well teaches you how to avoid snipers really well, and learning how to bomb in as a soldier teaches you how to avoid being bombed. So yeah, playing as different classes can be very valuable, no matter what class you're playing. And also, for the love of God, play medic. You might not be top fragging and getting clips for your epic montage, but he's still a very valuable character to the team, and everyone's grateful to see him. So please, play medic occasionally, especially if your team is lacking in support. But do be mindful that different classes shine in different situations, just like how different weapons shine in different situations. Wait, I didn't even mention weapon unlocks. Like I just mentioned, different weapon unlocks shine in different situations, but most people do agree that when it comes to stock, it's the most well-rounded and often the best option in most situations. But weapon balance is far too complicated of a subject to get into, so I'm just gonna leave you with the tips mentioned in the video. Anyway, like and subscribe if you did like the video. I'm over halfway to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and it would honestly be pretty cool to hit such a milestone. And I know this video was rather simple, but it wasn't made for the experienced player. It was made for people picking up TF2 for the first time and wanting to get better. So that's it. That's the end of the video. So see ya.